Like I know Leafs fans, just like Leafs fans, and I'm sure you have enough of them who
We've
are
got a few
looking at this guy
bosses
and
that
following
fall
him.
into that category in this show.
Yeah, that too. I watched the LFR from Mr. Dangle, and he looked exasperated. And a lot of people might look at it and say, "Hey, you know what? It's 6 games," but this has been going on for a couple of years now. The losses in an embarrassing fashion. Where do you stand on all of this? Is this too soon to panic, or do you think this is just the right reaction for all of this?
Well, it sets up a big game 7 for the Leafs. Another one. It's just game 7 of the regular season rather than a playoff series. And,
Yes.
I realize, look, we're recording this before the Leafs play Carolina on Monday night. So, many of you listening or watching will have seen what happened in that game. We obviously don't know at this point in time. But, my view on this is, first of all, the way the fans or a portion of the fan base reacted, like, I have no problem with that. A lot of those people, and I'm not trying to, I'm not saying like those crazy people, but look, they don't want to hear about expected goals or some of the things that haven't gone the Leafs way. I mean, what sports are at their root is passion, right? And we're talking about passionate people who've, run short. I think that they've had the hope kind of bled out of them by the last number of years. I mean, there's that old saying, Julian, that in sports, you're either selling hope or you're selling winning. Well, the Leafs have no more hope to sell. I mean, that's been the last 5 years with this core. If you go back to that first season when Matthews and Marner are rookies and Nylander, like everyone understood that year, okay, they aren't Stanley Cup favorites or anything, but like this team's building in the right direction. And so you can get by on off nights, I think. And then time's gone along here. This season is all about winning. And, as much as I heard some of the Leafs players and Sheldon Keefe, like they kind of sort of their reaction to the reaction, if you will, was that, some of this is media created or the fans being a little hysterical. They called it the noise. But let's remember that they've earned the noise through 6 games. Like this is a team with high expectations. This is a team that spent 3 weeks of training camp talking about how painful it was to lose to Montreal in the playoffs, how much they needed to make amends for that. I think we all recognize with 76 games remaining in their regular season, they've got lots of time to do that still. It's not like this is a final judgment, but it's not a very encouraging sign. And, I really thought it kind of gets lost in how crazy the weekend was. But Sheldon Keefe himself, like I felt like he upped the ante after Friday's game against San Jose. And, he put the heat squarely on Marner and Matthews in the media, had sort of a tense exchange with Terry Koshin of the Toronto Sun, who'd asked about Nick Ritchie, who was the third member of that line at that point. And, he was like, you should be asking as many questions about Matthews and Marner as you are about him. And so that set Saturday up to be a game. You know what I mean? Like you already have that early stage of the season. The coach himself is putting the spotlight on his biggest players. Then they go into a game against Wilkes-Barre Scranton and lose 7-1. And, what's the difference? Right. They could have lost 3-1, what have you. But I think, again, when you're talking about fans, they have reason not to trust this core group. Right. And so, I think as media members or someone looking at it, you can step back and say like, okay, they're 2-3-1, which really isn't the end of the world. The one overtime loss set against New York, it was Igor Shesterkin. I mean, the scoring chances, the shots, I mean, anything you look at, that was a goalie loss. Essentially, they got goalied. Even the San Jose game, they had to start their number 3 goalie. Like, you can start to work through all the excuses and things that come up, but really what I think this comes back to is there are no excuses left for the Leafs. I mean, no matter who gets injured this season, no matter how this plays out, this is a group that's got to find a way that's talked about that. And so, I didn't expect sort of this degree of urgency, panic, chaos to arrive this soon, but especially when it comes from a portion of the fan base, I think it's totally justified. These people have been patient. And so, yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's one bad weekend, especially if they go on a winning streak, but there's not a lot of trust around that team at this point in time. And so that's what they're fighting through, right? They have to fight. They're going to have to battle through this noise, if that's what they want to call it. They're going to have to battle through the doubts because until they prove it, they haven't done it. And that's where they're at right now.
We've both watched a fair amount of Charlie Brown, I assume, throughout our lives. So we're both familiar with Charlie Brown running to kick the football, being held by Lucy, and then Lucy pulls the football back at the last second. I imagine Toronto fans kind of feel like that. You make a really good point. They're tired of having the wool pulled up over their eyes and being sold this hope. when it's just this clown car that's not going to be able to get it done when you need them to get it done, whether it's in the playoffs or against a Zamboni driving goaltender or against, as you eloquently put it, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins losing 7-1. I wonder if we would have made a bigger deal of it if the game was like 4-3 for Pittsburgh instead of 7-1, though.
It would be a totally different reaction. I mean, I don't think people would be applauding the Leafs for a loss in that fashion, but 7-1 is pretty humiliating. And like, there's no way around that. I mean, I would say that if any team lost 7-1 at any given time, it's just a tough result. I would expect a fan base to not like watching that. But I think, especially under the circumstances early in the season, if you're a Leafs fan, you look at the Florida Panthers right now, right? And not only are they 5-0, but like their goal differential, all the underlying numbers suggest this is a team that's ready to take a step. I mean, they took a step last year. They made the playoffs. They gave Tampa a good series in the first round. Now they look like they've gotten better. And, look, progression doesn't always happen in a linear fashion, especially with sports teams. There's numerous examples. We can go back to that season where St. Louis won the Stanley Cup and was last place at the new year. Even the first Tampa Cup in the first COVID season, they really were like a 500 team for almost half the season and had to get some things together. I mean, it's not like everyone just starts and it's straight up and you win a cup. I don't think that, I don't think anyone should necessarily think that way, but look, fans, especially we're talking about the fans, they probably don't need to be patient here. I don't think. I think it's fair for them to get upset by 7-1 against a team that's missing basically all of its best players. I think it does come down to trust. Honestly, there just isn't trust or faith yet that this group will get over the top, and it will make it all the better if they do. Like, I think that's the way. If you're inside the Leafs front office or in their dressing room at this point in time, like, I think you try to frame it that way, is that this is still all opportunity, right? Because nobody trusts you, because you've lost in this fashion. I mean, this is sort of the door you're trying to knock down. And I think as much as Leaf fans were down on Saturday night, they'll go crazy the other way if this group does manage to get it together and have a great regular season, win a series or 2 or 3, maybe 4. But if not, I do. This is a sign of how rocky this year could be too, if they're not able to right the ship and win more games.
Actually, so I understand that this episode will go out just before the Leafs and Hurricanes played, and a lot of people might end up still listening or watching this podcast the day after. And I also acknowledge that a lot of people who listen to our show don't necessarily live in Toronto and might not necessarily understand the collective dread among those fans. So let's imagine the Toronto Maple Leafs get it together and beat the Carolina Hurricanes on Monday night, and then into Tuesday they have another win to their tally. Is that enough, at least, to get rid of some of that collective dread? Or do you see fans just still kind of just throwing their hands in the air being like, geez, at least we beat Carolina? Like, how do you think fans will respond if the Leafs win Monday night?
That'll help, right? It's like a bit of a pressure release valve. That's how I see it. But, it's not going to completely remove it. I mean, if they go 2 weeks down the road and lose 7-1 to someone else again, we'll probably be in for this. I mean, I think what they have to show is progression and progress. I think they have to show that they can win games when they maybe don't have their best, or, right now, one of the issues for the Leafs has been Mitch Marner has 1 point through the first 6 games. Austin Matthews yet to score a goal in the 3 games he's played since returning from offseason wrist surgery. I mean, their top players haven't started firing yet. But I think that what fans would want to see is, okay, you can still win those games sometimes, right? It doesn't, like, obviously your top line talent, the guys who make all the big money. Yeah, they got to carry the season for most of the time, but there are going to be nights where they have some bad luck or they're not playing at their best. I think a good veteran team finds a way to grind out those victories. And so I think what they have to show is progress and consistency. It's not a matter of, winning all 76 remaining games to keep everybody calm. But I think if you can get on a run and consistently find your way through, and you just can't let it get to 7-1, man. Like, I mean,
yeah,
there was room for a moral victory still in Pittsburgh. I mean, they got down pretty quickly. The 2 quick goals are down 3-1 against the 4-1, but there's room to maybe battle back in that game. San Jose and Boston played on Sunday. San Jose fell behind. They get it back within a goal with a couple goals in the third period. Like, I feel like that still gives you a moral victory. And I realize that moral victories don't count San Jose's moral loss there is the same as a 7-1 loss in the standings, but I think the team feels better, and probably anyone who cares about the team watching that feels better. And so, I think this group does have to show some pushback. It doesn't mean what happens in this Carolina game matters so much. It doesn't even really matter. They play Wednesday in Chicago, right? The Blackhawks haven't won yet. Obviously if you lose there, you're going to see another round of madness. But, I actually don't think that matters. It's sort of how you lose, how you play, how you respond to this period of time. I liked what Morgan Riley said. He said, we have to prove that we can break some of our bad habits. And I really think that is what it's about, because it's a bad habit to get to 7-1. I just think it's for a team that's trying to win a Stanley Cup, for a team that's been through what they've been through. I mean, they didn't lose one game last season, anything close to 7-1. And so I think they do have to turn it around quickly, or, I mean, who knows? Like, this is the flip side of having fans in the building is, you're going to hear from them out too. And, they got to come home on the weekend. So they got 2 road games left, maybe to try to calm the waters a bit before coming back to Scotiabank Arena.